Now that you've found UBN Radio and discovered our quality talk shows, it's time to spread the word to friends, family, and the universe. 24 hours of music and talk. Radio without limits. That's why people keep coming back for more. That's ubnradio.com.
Going behind the scenes with Hollywood's power players. Real Hollywood Live with Ben and Reba. Starts now.
I'm Reba Merrill, and this is Tuesday, the 25th of August, and this is Real Hollywood Live. Actually, I got the name of the show right. Usually I screw it up. My co-host Ben is at an important meeting out of town, and so I'm fortunate enough to have a very special co-host. I have been trying to get her on the show for a long time. My editor, my producer, and my daughter, Cheryl Hilsick. Hello.
Hi.
Oh, I forgot to say, wait a minute, I have to say that you can find us, you can see how I love this new technology. You can find us at Universal Broadcasting Network. We're on Channel 1 right now, and those people in New York, I know, love us. I got all the information out. But this is Cheryl Hilsick, and we worked together for 20 years, and I think she's an incredible interviewer. She's better than I am, and I just want to show you a little piece of what Cheryl does for a living today. So, Kurt, run that video.
My name is Cheryl Hilsick, and I'm a storyteller. I spent 20 years in Hollywood producing publicity material for feature films to sell people a ticket to a movie, regardless of if it was good or bad. Didn't matter. I just wanted you to go to the movies. But for the last 5 years or so, I've been focused on doing cause marketing, getting access to the reality of life, being introduced to people who were survivors of such difficult challenges, whether it was domestic violence or prostitution or drug addiction, to actually understand the journey that these people took to overcome and get past it.
We are worth it.
Everyone I interview gives me something. I mean, from the heroin addict, I learned what I call Ryan's rule. Remember who you are, be comfortable with that, be vulnerable enough to ask for help when you need it, and humble enough to accept it. And then you're speaking from the heart. And when you're speaking from the heart, it works. The thing that I really love about what I do is it wasn't what I set out to do in this world. I was a chemistry major that dropped out to be a great cocktail waitress and bartender. But, I guess my mom saw a different path for me. What did you see in me? No, how did you get here? How did you become, the transition from that 17-year-old girl that got married to being a 25-year-old divorcee to being an Emmy Award-winning television producer and journalist and talk show
I never
host?
thought about how I got there. I just did it because, I guess I have to admit this in front of the two powerful women you're going to meet. I wanted to be an actress. And it really, first of all, my generation didn't really allow that. I mean, my mother just hounded me, even though I took acting lessons and I was in the drama club, that nice girls didn't do that. I mean, it's not a lie how old I am. I am 80, and so my options were very limited. But the big thing that happened to me was that I got a divorce and I was left destitute with 2 babies.
So you were forced to go out there and make it happen. But how about you, Susan? How did you get interested to become a, powerful woman? It was not, it's not easy. You got to make a choice, I think.
We haven't introduced her.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay,
this is my first time, so I'm really, really bad at this.
Shall I introduce myself?
I love it.
Hi, I'm Susan Cartsonis. I'm a film producer. I've made movies that you've seen like What Women Want, Where the Heart Is, most recently The Duff and Beastly, and for those of you who were 13 in 2006, Aquamarine, A Tale of Female Friendship. I've made most of my movies from the female perspective because I believe that women deserve to have their stories told, and we populate over half of the ticket buying audience. And my movies have collectively made over $1 billion in box office. I was also the executive behind Buffy the Vampire Slayer, and Buffy the Vampire Slayer, the film and the television series, embody that idea that girls can be both pretty and powerful, which I think is an important message for girls to hear.
But I think to get powerful, you have to start somewhere. And I want to know how Susan started.
Well, I have a mother who's a great role model, and she was an early feminist. She gave me my first copy of Ms. Magazine when I was about, 11. I think the magazine had just come out, and she had to take it away from me eventually because it made me so mad at the inequality between men and women that I would be nasty to my father and my brothers. So it was taken away from me. But that got me interested in the sort of in gender parity and gender intelligence, so to speak, and how society suffers, both men and women, when there isn't a balance. And economically, I believe that the movie industry suffers a lot for not telling enough stories from the female perspective.
But you were an executive at Fox, but you didn't start out as an executive. Tell the story. How you start? First of all, how'd you get the job at Fox? It isn't easy to get a studio job.
Well, I grew up in a small town in Arizona mostly, and I felt sort of isolated from the rest of the world. My family was sort of an odd family in that town. My father was an urban planner, and there was a plan for the town, but it was kind of in the sticks, 25 miles west of Phoenix, and we were sort of the outliers. We were different. We were the only Democrats in an almost entirely Republican town, and so I felt like an outsider, and I looked for stories that included me and made me feel part of a bigger world. And once I got to the bigger world, which in my case was UCLA, and I found more people like me who were interested in telling stories, I got obsessed with storytelling because I think it's the thing that unites us. And even if we come from completely different backgrounds or different political beliefs or different religions, it brings us together and makes us all part of the human race. And I think changes lives in a positive way, empowers and inspires and entertains.
So how'd you get the job?
Well, my first job out in the business was working at the Kohner Levy Agency, which was a boutique agency owned by two European men. They represented all the sort of European royalty, and they're Paul Kohner is actually the grandfather of the Weitz brothers, who made About a Boy and American Pie and most recently Grandma. I learned what it was like to be sort of in the representation business, which means you're in the middle and you're in between the talent and the financiers and productions. And I thought it was a great way to learn, and I knew that being closer to the storytelling is what I wanted to do. So I went to graduate school at NYU. I got an MFA in dramatic writing, and as a result of that, got a job reading scripts for 20th Century Fox. And within about 9 months of doing that, Scott Rudin, my then boss, and the very young 28-year-old president of production promoted me to being a creative executive and brought me from New York back out to LA.
What year was that?
Oh gosh, if I tell you that, you'll know how.
Yeah.
No, I'm trying to think. When I came out to LA, it was 86.
Okay.
We had the pleasure of working on some of your movies when you had become the head of production, which when I did the research, I was really excited because For the Boys
Oh yeah.
was my first film for 20th Century Fox International. It was the switch from being a domestic EPK producer to going to the international part. And the big problem was that the publicity for The Boys didn't play well for international, which is why they brought me in, though I had never done it before.
Well, you might remember we had a terrible public relations problem. It was a terrible world problem, which is that the movie opened just as the Persian Gulf War began. And so people didn't really want to hear about or from war. And though I think the film is a wonderful film and has longevity, at the moment, it was not what people wanted to see in their entertainment. So it was a very tough
Well, we did
thing.
change it, and we made it much more sympathetic. The domestically Bet was very brassy and throwing that bosom around. And instead, when I positioned it, I put her into the hospital where she sang among the ward, someone to watch over me. And every time I think about it, but that was the beginning of my career changing.
Oh, my
and
gosh.
I want to publicly thank you. Also, I want to thank you again for the Sandra Bullock film, While You Were Sleeping, because that was
I didn't work on that film.
but you found the script.
Well, it's really weird that you bring it up. That's the one that got away for me.
That's right.
The writers brought me the pitch, and I tried to sell it to my then boss, somebody who didn't have the foresight to see what I saw. It was a beautiful pitch. It was the movie. And I was not ultimately involved with that project, other than going to see the first showing at the theater, paying my money, and then sobbing uncontrollably at the end of the movie. And my significant other turned to me and he said, "Susan, why are you crying so hard? I mean, it's a sad movie, but it's not that sad." And I said, "It could have been mine. It could have been mine."
But only reason I brought it up is it just showed what great taste you have in films. And I guess that's part of what you have to do. You have to find something that's saleable, pleases you, and then pleases the world.
You have to learn to listen to yourself.
And trust it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, when you're young, you think, "Oh, I'm weird. I like weird things." But the fact is that if you can really listen to yourself and listen to what moves you, what makes you laugh, what resonates with you as being important to you, if you're like me, I'm a fairly normal, immature person. I can usually put my finger on what's going to appeal to women, at least from the ages of, I don't know, 8 to 80, because it's what I like too. And so I really try to take my own pulse when I'm reading a script or thinking about a concept or planning to get engaged with a project. I want to know that it's something that would get me out of my sweatpants and into like regular jeans and go to a movie theater.
When you're reading the script, and this was a question my mom used to ask actors all the time, do you read it in pictures or do you read the words? I mean, what makes your hair stand up and go, yes, and do you see it that way?
I do. I'm a visual person, and I paint and draw, and I come from my father's artistic, and I do see things in pictures. And so when I read a script, if I'm not seeing it in pictures, it's a problem. It means that it's probably not capturing my imagination the way it should.
Did you ever think about directing?
I did. It's interesting. When I was 12, when I was 12, I directed my first and only film. It was called Alice's Nightmare. It was a retelling of Alice Through the Looking Glass, about a girl in Arizona who looks strangely like Alice Through the Looking Glass, who wakes up after falling asleep in an orchard to a black and white world in which all the societal ills are there. There's pollution, there's drug abuse, there's rioting, and I remember there was rudeness, too. As only a 12-year-old would think that was like a major societal ill. And it was a 5-minute film, and it won first place at the Arizona State University first one film festival.
So you're going to do it again? Big time?
And then came Pleasantville, the reverse of that kind of.
I'm very happy to support producers, but you never know what the future holds. It could happen.
You mean support directors?
Exactly. And other producers, too. What the hell?
But the thing is that one of the things that I know is important to you is that women have a voice in an industry that has not been generous to opening doors to women. And I know with your storefront productions and your foundation that you're really trying to make a change. And I don't mean to put you on the spot, but I'm a member of the Academy and I know what it looks like. And I don't care how many they wave in and say, "Oh, look, we're getting diverse." You really think it's going to change?
The numbers tell the story, don't they? And what's interesting about the film business is in the early years, I was just talking to Molly Gregory, who's a major film historian. She's writing a book about the history of female stunt women, and she wrote Women Who Run the Show about women in the 70s and how there was a wave of powerful women. But I was talking to her about the history of women. When the film industry started in the teens, women were running the show. And as soon as it became a business, she explained to me, as soon as money became a thing, the guys crowded the women out. And I don't think that there's some, sort of sexist agenda for men to dominate. I do think there's institutional habit, and I think there is a preponderance of men in the decision-making positions. And as long as that happens, the choices to populate a slate of films at a studio is going to be more male than female, because men have a natural affinity for the stories that tell their stories. And female executives don't want to be marginalized as just girl executives by choosing only girly films. They want to be all-purpose executives and tell stories about the entire range of humanity, because by nature, as women, we're more kind of inclusive and collaborative. And we can experience something like Brokeback Mountain, which was about men, as a love story that we relate to, whereas straight men, not so much. We're a much more sort of all-embracing audience. Anyway.
Okay, so how long does it take you from finding the script to putting the pieces together to getting the financing? I'm saying financing.
When I'm lucky or when I'm not lucky?
Exactly.
Well, we'll do it both ways. When you're lucky.
Okay, What Women Want, door to door, was 3 years. That was remarkable. I mean, and it's to this day the highest grossing romantic comedy of all time domestically. So that was a pretty, sort of good
How about
period
the
of
Duff?
time. The Duff, I wasn't in on the very beginnings of the Duff. That was Mary Viola and McG and their company, and I came in later, so I couldn't speak to that. But that was a few years, and it wasn't a terribly long, torturous process.
But it came out of a film company, CBS Films, where
Right.
the president, who I know, Terry Press, I would imagine that would have speeded it up. You had a woman executive you were dealing with.
Well, it not only did it certainly speed it up, but she was incredibly insightful and innovative when it came to using social media, which women drive, to market the film. It's incredibly cost efficient, and it's incredibly smart when you're speaking to a constituency of young moviegoers who use social media on a daily basis, on a hourly basis.
Well, I know we don't want to do numbers, but I looked it up last night. The film, The Duff, cost $8,500,000, and it made close to $35 million. That's a pretty damn good return on your investment.
And that's just theatrical. Now people are experiencing it in a whole new way. I saw Jimmy Fallon talking about how he's seen it 3 times when he had his hand operation to cheer himself up. He watched it 3 times in a row, and that was streaming. So I think we probably, if we could get our hands on the numbers of how we were doing in DVD, we'd see even more. So congrats to Terry for embracing social media in the way that she did. I've never had a set like the one that we had, where social media was entirely welcome. There was 0 censorship.
Wow.
Are we allowed to talk about what you just finished, or is it a secret?
Well, it's not a secret. I EP'd along with producer EP and director Paul Hone a wonderful movie for the Disney Channel called The Invisible Sister, and it'll come out around Halloween, and it stars a young, wonderful cast that includes Rowan Blanchard and Paris Burrells and Karan Brar, all of whom are Disney Channel stars.
That's because I don't know a single name.
And also Rachel Crow, who you might have seen on the first season of The X Factor. She's a darling, talented actress and recording artist.
And so do you stop and take a breath, or are you already looking for your next project?
Well, it looks like I'm going to be going forward this fall on a wonderful movie called Carrie Pilby that I developed and actually adapted with a group of women, all named Susan. Susan Johnson, a first-time director and a long-time producer, is directing. Suzanne Farwell, who has produced all of Nancy Meyer's most recent movies, is producing with me. And Kara Holden, who wrote Soul Surfer, wrote the script. And Dean Craig, who wrote Death at a Funeral, did a little British writing, because it's a part British movie, and Belle Powley will play the title role, Carrie Pilby. So we're very excited about that. She just opened in Diary of a Teenage Girl, which has been getting rave reviews, and she's a remarkable actress.
We have to go to a commercial break, but I'm going to ask you really quickly, what was the best advice you ever got? For the simple reason, whoever gave it to you was really smart because you were doing incredibly well. So what was the advice?
That's very nice of you to say. The best advice I ever got was do your job like you're not afraid of being fired.
Ooh, this is a great way to go to a commercial break. You know, we have incredible sponsors. My darling, I would like to drink to Suzanne Cartsonis. I love her. We're going to thank the Wagner family of farms, wines. They do wines. We do films.
On the farm.
And the farm. And the barkeepers of Silver Lake who did all the glasses for the Mad Men. These are our kind of people. So let's take a commercial break. We'll be back more with Susan, and we're going to introduce you to another powerful woman, Joanne Horowitz, after these messages. To you.
Cheers.
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 I learned a lot about you too.
Conundrum has been turning winemaking on its head for 25 years. Conundrum White is the original white wine blend from California. Pair this exotic, versatile wine with everything from Asian cuisine to tacos. Conundrum Red is rich, full-flavored, and balanced, the perfect complement to dishes like pasta pomodoro, fajitas, and barbecue. Drink it slightly chilled, perfect for summer. You'll find Conundrum Red and White wines at your favorite restaurants, wine shops, or supermarket. Go to WagnerFamilyOfWine.com. Again, that's WagnerFamilyOfWine.com. Find your wine, find your adventure.
Nearly Famous Tales from the Hollywood Trenches is Reba Merrill's intriguing look at hidden Hollywood. Find out what movie stars are really like in this behind-the-scenes Hollywood tell-all. The story of Reba's extraordinary life interwoven with an insider's look at achieving fame and success in the entertainment industry. A must-read. Buy Nearly Famous Tales from the Hollywood Trenches at RebaMerrill.com, Amazon.com, or ask for it at fine bookstores. Nearly Famous Tales from the Hollywood Trenches. You'll love it.
Barkeeper in Silver Lake has the finest cocktail shakers and vintage glassware and barware from the mid-century to new. And let's not forget about Barkeeper's unique spirits, 150 different kinds of bitters, and their unique gifts. In fact, Barkeeper provided a lot of the vintage barware for Mad Men. BarkeeperSilverLake.com. Don't wait to visit their store or their website at BarkeeperSilverLake.com. It's your very own Barkeeper catalog for unique gifts.
This close?
You know, I spent a lot of years in Hollywood, and everybody is really surprised when somebody comes out and they're an overnight success. Oh, isn't that amazing? Well, I got news for you. It doesn't really happen that way. It happens with hard work, and it happens if you're lucky enough to have a really terrific, smart talent manager, and that's what we have today. Joanne Horowitz is the talent manager to the stars, but she's very picky. I mean, I feel sorry for her clients because she's so picky. I imagine that she even took them. No, I didn't mean that as an. What I like about Joanne is how her career started. I want you to tell the story because in doing the research again last night, I was utterly amazed what you were handed and what you did with it. So take us back to New York when you find yourself what? At Universal, I guess.
Well, I mean, actually, no one handed me anything. I mean, my dad handed me a $10 bill when I graduated school, and he said, take the Long Island Railroad into New York and get yourself a job. So my first job was actually at a place called Fuji Photo Film. And actually, my boss was, there was a little bit of, he was always trying to hit on me, so I quit my job, much to my father's chagrin. But then I took, believe it or not, back in those days, I took a secretarial course because you could not get in to work anywhere unless you had secretarial skills as a female. So I took, secretarial course, and then I got a job at Universal Pictures, marketing, publicity, woman on my right there 25 years, woman on my left 30 years, believe it or not. And I went, I'm going nowhere fast. But then I met a guy I went on a date with who was working for Steve Rebell and Ian Schrager. Shortcut. We go out dancing one night. They take me to see this club that they're building in the city, Studio 54. I say to them, why don't you give me a stack of invitations? I'll send them out to people. We get Celebrity Bulletin at the office.
And tell everybody what that was, because
back
today
then,
they would kill you.
Yeah, well, Celebrity Bulletin back then, I mean, people didn't have alias names or anything. So if Sylvester Stallone was in town shooting a movie, it would say he was at the Sherry Netherland Hotel 9 out of 10 times. Sometimes it would be that I would call the agent or I don't even know if they had managers back then, but the agent or publicist to get someone to the club. But in any event, I was at the right place at the right time, very young. Everybody showed up at the opening. Steve and Ian offered me a job, so I did publicity, parties, special events, celebrity wrangling, I guess you could say, and left my job at Universal. But my whole intention was to network myself because I wanted to be in the film business. So
And nobody taught you how to do this, did
no, I know. I always say I don't know where it came from. The drive and the passion and the drive, that unrelenting drive. I mean, even my client, when he took out an ad congratulating me for an award I won a few months ago, said, to the girl from New York who never takes no for an answer. So, yeah, that's me. So
I want to ask you a question. So you're coming from PR and going into management. What is an interesting correlation between them? But how did you get from one to the next? Because honestly, I saw careers, big careers, like even Paul Newman and things like that I wanted to be part of a career from the beginning, from scratch, and to see where it goes. And you can make a lot more money that way on top of that. And PR was, honestly, I didn't like dealing with the media. And that was back in the 80s. So can you imagine dealing with the media now? I mean, they're more ruthless now than they've ever been. I'm so happy I'm not in PR anymore. So if I understood you correctly, then were you looking to foster new talent and grow with them? And
well, I mean, at that point, I was young, and that was the only way it was going to happen.
So where did you find them? Where'd
In
you
a
go
bar.
hunting?
Well, I mean, I didn't really go hunting. I was dancing one night at a club called
found them in a bar.
Heartbreak in New York, and I saw a young guy, good-looking guy there one night, and just said, I want to represent you for acting, and I got him on a soap opera back then. That was his first job. Got a couple of people like that, and then back in those days, I met a struggling young actor named Kevin Spacey, but he was struggling. He really hadn't done anything at that point, and he couldn't even afford to have a phone in his apartment. And he did some impersonations for me. I was very impressed. And we said, why don't we work together? So I started working with him then. But it was not an easy road. I mean, people kept shutting the door in my face saying that he'd never be a movie star.
Why?
Well, I don't know what their reason was. I thought he was a movie star.
It's fabulous, yeah.
Yeah.
But here's the question.
Well, he wasn't your typical leading man either.
But if you start out like that and you earn your living because they're going to earn a living, what made you hold on the thin days when you couldn't get him or he couldn't get acting jobs?
Right. Well, I because I was so good at doing the parties in New York, I had a reputation for, I had the best guest list in New York, and I had the best entries to get the parties. So I did, all the music parties, like I did Michael Jackson and Julio Iglesias, and
so you were wearing two hats in the beginning.
In the beginning, I was wearing two hats, and my parents were like, "What do you mean you're going to manage somebody? But you're a publicist. You're doing PR. You can't do that." And so really I was doing both, and I thought whichever, I would do the management. If it was meant to be, I would move in that direction. If it was meant to be that I stayed in publicity, I would move in that direction. But it ended up being that I moved in the direction of the management, thank God.
Well,
then I let go of the publicity, but to this day, I still have that knowledge. And so it's really helpful for my clients.
With a successful career, you're able to fulfill some of your dreams. I know you are a great animal lover, but you have really taken it to the nth degree. Will you tell us about the trip you took to New York for the Ivory Crush? I was just so blown away that you would do this.
Well, I mean, I do love all animals, but I did get particularly interested in the elephant rhino plight of recent, or any endangered species. But what's going on in Africa right now with the African elephants, all the elephants and the rhinos, is that they're getting poached for their ivory, which has no medicinal value, or the rhino horn, which the Chinese say is used for sexual prowess, and it does nothing. It's the same stuff that's in our fingernails, the same exact thing.
So you went to New York.
So no,
just
but
this-
I've been interested in so I got involved in putting together an event called Rock the Elephant, Rock the Rhino. It's going to happen April 9th, 2016, kind of like a Live Aid meets Stand Up to Cancer. We're doing it at the Forum. Live Nation is doing the ticketing and the marketing. I have a wonderful producer working with me named Dan Parisi. He's produced everything from events. He's produced most of the iHeart Festival events. He's produced the Jay-Z Justin Timberlake tour. He does all the Robin Hood fundraisers in New York, which like last year raised $101 million in one night. Nice. The Hurricane Sandy event. He's actually doing the Pope in New York next month at Madison Square Garden. They're doing a concert for the Pope when he comes to New York. So anyway, he's producing the event with me, and we are looking to get like 12 to 15 major musicians, which I can't divulge who they are yet, but we have some huge rock groups that have already agreed to play. And our host committee has turned out to be fantastic. We have everyone from Jon Stewart to Ricky Gervais, to Catherine Bigelow, to Ian Somerhalder, Nikki Reed. We're getting really great. Lily Tomlin just came on the other day. Lupita Nyong'o came on our host committee. You know, she's an ambassador for Wild Aid right now. So it's very, very exciting. And we have 15 NGOs in Africa on the ground where the money will get distributed.
That's just my next question. I was going to say, what are you going to do with the money that you raise?
Oh, we've vetted everybody. They have to sign a 2-page directive of how their money will be used. But we have IFA, International Fund for Animal Welfare. We have World Wildlife Fund. We have Wild Aid, David Sheldrick, Elephant Without Borders, Elephant Voices, Save the Elephants.
So this is how you got the Catherine Bigelow piece that showed the plight of the elephants. That was the most incredible trailer actually it's longer than a trailer that you sent us.
It's a 3-minute. Oh, well, no, I didn't do that. She's just on our host committee, and that 3-minute short just gives you an idea of exactly what's going on in Africa right now. And, you know, they shoot them with AK-47s. I mean, it's a whole militia thing. You shoot these innocent, beautiful creatures that are as intelligent as we are. They just don't speak our language. They speak their own language. And then you destroy them and their families, and they mourn longer than we mourn. When, you know, it's an awful thing. And then, of course, you have the other part of it, which is what is ivory, the profits from the ivory trade, what is it funding? And it's funding a lot of terrorist groups. It's, you know, there's an article in National Geographic this month. It's the cover article about ivory smuggling, where this reporter, Brian Christie, is an investigative reporter, for a year they reproduced 2 perfect pieces of ivory that no one could tell they were ivory, put a GPS device in them, and sent it out with other ivory to see where it went. And it went straight to Joseph Kony's, and straight to the government of Sudan. I mean, it's so corrupt. And that's child trafficking, drug trafficking. It's horrendous. And mass and genocide. I take that.
Well, it really turns out that when you get some power, you can use it in a positive way. Usually we just think of celebrities doing that. But to be able to see somebody who you're really in the background, to be able to put your money where your mouth is really impressive. I want to ask you, what in the world do you do as a manager? We talk about.
Oh my God, that's too long a question to answer. I mean, that's my most unfavorite question.
Do you dress them? What do you do? I mean, give me a list.
Well, first of all, it depends if you're a good manager or a bad manager.
Well, let's take
so,
that you're a good manager.
I do everything from reading the scripts to negotiating the deals. A lot of managers don't negotiate. I negotiate.
Because you don't say no.
No, I just think that you're leaving money on the table. If you're not reading your contracts, you're leaving money on the table. And there's 10 different ways to skin a cat. I've seen actors show me contracts who are like Academy Award winning actors whose contracts are embarrassing of what was negotiated. So, there's back end bonuses. There's all kinds of ways to negotiate a deal. That is my favorite part. But, I read lots of scripts. You're consulting. It's your advice. I've been doing it a long time now. So
what about when things go wrong? Because we're all human beings. We'll just take a media flub. I mean,
you have to troubleshoot. Hopefully your experience, gets it through. I mean, it's, listen, I think we all have if you're good at what you do, you have an innate ability at doing it. I don't think it's for everybody. I don't think it's something that can be taught. I think it's something that you have. I mean, just like when I started working at Studio 54 back in the day, I had no training whatsoever in what I did. No one ever got me a job. I was always a self-starter to begin with too. But Kevin and I came up in the business together, so I learned the business.
Here's the other side. When they become famous, is it easier to manage or more difficult?
No, it's more difficult. It's more difficult. It's certainly rewarding, but at the same time, there's quadruple the work. You get quadruple the scripts. You get quadruple the offers. You have bigger decisions to make. There are bigger contracts to negotiate. Everything is more. When they were in the beginning, there's not that much to even manage. But because of my expertise, it's easy for me to manage somebody who has, no resume per se. But as they get bigger, yeah. I mean, like I'll go home now with my client Scott. Like I'll have a pile literally of like 10 scripts to read that are offers. And I'll read 2. And the next night I come home, I have 13. So
we should give Scott his last name, don't you think? Or do you want to keep him a secret?
Well, his last name is Eastwood. Yes.
But you had him for a long time.
But I've had him for 10 years. So he's been working under the radar for 10 years. In the last year, he's having his moment. He's paid his dues. He's worked hard. Now, he did his first big studio film.
Do you think it's harder for someone, to come out from the shadow of your parents?
I actually do.
And
that was actually a choice I made with Scott. Is initially he didn't even use his dad's name. His dad insisted that he use his name, and which is the only reason why he took it back. He started using Scott Reeves initially. So, but at the same time, I wanted him to create his own path. It would have been really easy for him to do his dad's movies and be big part like his sister did years ago. It sort of backfired on her. So yeah, he has the name, which he didn't use in the beginning, but at the same time, we've tried to make his own path, and it worked. We've done it. I kept him out of the press. We did no publicity until like a year and a half ago. People were calling me all the time to do press. So those are the kind of everything is a decision. I mean, when you're doing your job well, it looks easy, but it's not. I always say that. I mean, Susan, I'm sure can vouch for that too. That we make it look so easy, and then
Well, then, do you believe in luck? Do you think you're here because of luck or not?
Absolutely not. Absolutely. I mean, maybe timing to have met certain people to represent, but no. And this event I'm working on, this Rock the Elephant, just proves that, if this comes to fruition, which it looks like it's going to, that it was that drive and that not wanting to take no for an answer is the reason why the event will actually happen, which is exactly what I did with Kevin when I found him. To get him to where he is. It was my drive, the push.
So I'm curious about where your drive came from, because she had a lot of drive when she wanted to make up for, the failed marriage and changing all that. To what do you attribute that drive?
We were discussing it earlier. I have no idea. I was brought up to get married, to graduate, be an elementary school major and meet a guy and get married.
What happened?
I wasn't interested. So I don't know. I don't know if it was when I was growing up, I used to listen to my dad's business conversations. Believe me, I love to shop, but I was more interested in what my dad was talking about when I was growing up. Don't know where it came from, but happy I have it.
I'm happy you have it too. I'm happy that Susan has the drive. We're going to take a break, and at the end of this, before we go to a commercial break, there is a soundbite from Emma Thompson from a film I did called Impromptu. We were right on the outskirts of Paris in a beautiful chateau. They have chateaus in Paris. They have villas someplace else. And she talks about that she wasn't happy growing up, and humor changed her life. So we're going to take a break. We're going to thank Condrum. Oh, God, I'm killing it.
Once again,
Yes. Conundrum.
The
That's what I
drinkers
meant.
and the non-drinkers.
Cheers. We have a
Cheers.
commercial break, and we're going to have Emma Thompson, and I'm going to come back and ask you how you got through school. What got you through school? So run that clip. And I thought to myself, I wonder if she did this to her family when she was a kid.
Yes, no, I don't think I did, actually. I was a punchable child. Punchable. Small, fat with a plait. Plait down my back. I mean, I think by the time I was 16, I discovered that one of the only ways to stop people from punching you or pulling your plait or telling you were fat and had a posh accent was by, being mucking around and being funny. And also by that time, I discovered Monty Python, you see. And they got me through school.
Conundrum has been turning winemaking on its head for 25 years. Conundrum White is the original white wine blend from California. Pair this exotic, versatile wine with everything from Asian cuisine to tacos. Conundrum Red is rich, full-flavored and balanced, the perfect complement to dishes like pasta pomodoro, fajitas, and barbecue. Drink it slightly chilled, perfect for summer. You'll find Conundrum Red and White wines at your favorite restaurants, wine shops, or supermarket. Go to WagnerFamilyOfWine.com. Again, that's WagnerFamilyOfWine.com. Find your wine, find your adventure.
Nearly famous Tales from the Hollywood Trenches is Reba Merrill's intriguing look at hidden Hollywood. Find out what movie stars are really like in this behind-the-scenes Hollywood tell-all. The story of Reba's extraordinary life interwoven with an insider's look at achieving fame and success in the entertainment industry. A must-read. Buy Nearly Famous Tales from the Hollywood Trenches at RebaMerrill.com, Amazon.com, or ask for it at fine bookstores. Nearly Famous Tales from the Hollywood Trenches. You'll love it.
Barkeeper in Silver Lake has the finest cocktail shakers and vintage glassware and barware from the mid-century to new. And let's not forget about Barkeeper's unique spirits, 150 different kinds of bitters, and their unique gifts. In fact, Barkeeper provided a lot of the vintage barware from Mad Men. BarkeeperSilverLake.com. Don't wait to visit their store or their website at BarkeeperSilverLake.com. It's your very own Barkeeper catalog for unique gifts.
Well, one of the things about listening to Emma Thompson talk about that she used humor to survive those last years in school, I'm wondering, were you two the perfect high school girls that just fitted in, loved it? I hated high school, but go ahead. Susan.
Well, I really hated high school in a major way. And I didn't think I could fit in, so I made myself bizarre. I wore thrift shop clothes. In my small town, I told you we were already the outsiders, so I made myself even more outside. I was always very upset by small town hypocrisy. And I remember one day I decided that I would... this was like during the counterculture years. I'd shave one leg and not the other just to confuse people as a piece of conceptual art. Well, in small town Arizona, that people do not know what to make of that. I'd go to the library and check out books like Portnoy's Complaint. I mean, not even really wanting to read them, but just to upset the librarian and to make a stand for free speech. I was kind of a bit of a rabble rouser when it came to kind of constitutional rights. And I just didn't like it. It was too confining for me. I wanted to see the bigger world, and I wasn't interested in.
But you were in one small place. Where in Arizona? You were like in a.
I went to high school in I went to grade school in Arizona, and I went to high school in Arizona and Canada for 2 years. My parents taught in Canada for 2 years, Eastern Canada. So anyway.
Did you fit in?
I definitely fit in. I mean, I've always been, basically a happy person. So I always adapt to wherever I am. So, yeah, I fit in. I mean, was I the number one most popular person? No, but I was in the right group, you could say. And I did have my boyfriend was the captain of the football team. But I never really saw myself as, I wasn't exceptional. I got good grades. My father was one of those guys that you always had to bring the postcard home, the report card home. So I was always had to work hard. We were not allowed to watch TV on school nights either.
What did you see yourself as then? When you were in high school, what did you think you were going to be when you grew up? This?
Didn't even think about it. Didn't even think about it.
What about you in high school?
I didn't even think about it when I was in college. I was a psychology major. But then I ended up being in elementary school. Then I changed to elementary school with a psychology minor. So I hadn't thought about it then either.
Can I just point out that those are the two best majors you could have for management?
Right, exactly.
Talent management.
Correct.
Like,
she's absolutely correct about that. Right?
You couldn't have put together a better program for yourself.
See, she stumbles into everything she's done. She doesn't know where it's coming from.
But
it's coming.
I did date a guy in New York when I first moved there who was an actor, just not a known actor, and he moved to L.A., and he left me with wanting to be in the movie business. And that's when I took the secretarial course and got the job at Universal. And so then my trajectory started from there. I have no idea where the drive, to send out those invitations from Studio 54. And every penny I made was created. Like I got different monies for different things. So for example, if I got Sylvester Stallone to show up at Studio, I would get like $250 cash off the books. Okay. And then if I got him on the cover of the Post, it'd be an additional $500. And then on the cover of the Daily News, an additional $500. If I got him in Time and Newsweek, it was an additional, separately, $500. So he walked in the door. We're talking like 1977.
When you were 12.
When I was 12, and I would get $2,500 cash off the books. I never did drugs. I did spend them on Lizard shoes back then. And Susan Bennett's Warren Edwards shoes and stuff like that. But I also got a lot of free stuff. I remember that there was a guy who ran a limo company that I knew. And I said, if I get celebrities to use your limousine, I want free limos in return. So, where I came up with it, I was negotiating back then. So I got some celebrities to use their limousines. I had a limousine at my disposal most of the time. I would go from the city to Long Island, have dinner with my parents at like 7 o'clock. Limo would wait for me. Come back to the city like around 10:30. He'd wait for me again. I'd go upstairs, get ready to go to Studio 54. Midnight, come downstairs. Limo drive me to Studio 54.
Was your father impressed now? How that $10 worked out?
Yeah. He ended up being very proud of me.
Well, I found high school to be very painful. I also never fitted in. I say now that I walked to a different drummer, but the truth of the matter is I was miserable. But the only way for me to survive is I got in the drama club and I was with people that were weird like me. Okay, so that way I got through school.
Well, that makes sense. That's what a lot of people who go into acting.
And then because I had no decisions that I had to make for myself because my parents were making them all, I got married right out of high school. It was really painful. But this is my daughter, and she did not follow my life, did you?
No, I didn't. I was able to learn from the steps that my mother made of,
Or the mistakes.
Balancing, or all of it. I was not one that had no choices. I had a lot of choices. If I told you my mother's advice was, I can't say it on the air, but don't ever marry him. You know,
Right.
the movie plan of life is a good way to go. She was married at 17. I was married at 20.
32.
30. 30. I've been married. Okay, I guess I can't say that then because it's a giveaway. No, I've been married 27 years and I love
good
it.
for you, though.
So I have a good life. I mean, I have a great marriage and family, and I haven't won Oscars and made movies, but I've made little movies.
Yeah, but
that
everybody
made a
does
difference.
whatever. Like
No,
you know,
but I love
yeah,
it.
But I
And-
never have. The way I look at it too is I never have regrets like about anything because my life wouldn't be my life then. If I did anything differently, I wouldn't be sitting here today. And everything, I love my life every week and every day. So it wouldn't be my life.
Right.
I bet you have
if
no
I had
regrets
made different
either.
choices. So
I think
I'm good with it.
I think regret is a terrible thing.
It's a waste.
It's a terrible feeling. I've had regrets at various points in my life, and I hate that moment of regret. So I try to live my life in a way that doesn't invite regret.
Right, but the truth of the matter is, if let's say you had got married at any time in your career or whatever, you wouldn't be sitting here. You wouldn't have made the movies you made. You wouldn't be sitting here today. Nothing that
absolutely.
you do
If I
would
had-
be your life.
If I had been pushed the way my mom was pushed, I don't know what I would have done. Instead, I was able to.
It would have been a
comfortably
fine
look-
life because that would have been your choice.
It would have been a different one.
Yeah, it would have been a different
and
one.
and it also made me stop and look at my mom and give it up and say, okay, I'll stop judging you. I saw the Merrill Streep movie, and I had to really think about
We
that.
had to talk
yeah.
about that.
But I also thought Maleficent was our story too. where
Oh, my
She was
goodness.
wronged, and then she got her wings back at the end because of her daughter's love.
Oh.
So I mean, it's we all are where we're supposed to be, and that's
That's what I
and
feel.
accepting it
Yeah.
and loving it. That's then you get to be in the flow, and it's all good, right?
I mean, even my dogs wouldn't be my dogs.
That's
You know
right.
what I mean? And I couldn't imagine life without them either. You know, so I think everything for a reason.
Well, I've had a really good time. I have to admit that I get very selfish about this show because I really want to be surrounded by women like you because you represent all the things that we can do, that people don't have to hand us things. We can go after it. We don't lose face. We don't have regrets. We have ups, we have downs, but we make it no matter what. I drink to you. I salute you. I'm very proud that I know both of you. Just because I pick you up at
Likewise.
parties and at the
Cheers.
academy,
Cheers
it
back
doesn't
at
mean
you.
I don't love you all.
Cheers right back at you.
And here's to you, Mom. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Here's to you,
Thank
Susan.
you.
Here's to you, Joanne.
I just want to say, in next week, we're going to go in a totally different direction. It's not that I don't love them, but we're going to have Simon Kilmurray, and he is the new president of the Independent Documentary Association. I picked him up, too. No.
That's interesting.
And Catherine Cat Kramer. And if you don't know her name, her Catherine is that she is the goddaughter of Katharine Hepburn. But more important, she's Stanley Kramer's daughter, and we're going to hear some stories about old Hollywood. You guys are new Hollywood, but I love to hear the stories about old Hollywood. And it is my pleasure to thank my wonderful sponsors. I love the wine. I love the bar glasses. I also plug my book.
You plugged me.
And I plugged
Yeah,
her. I just want to
And you
say,
plugged us.
this is Real Hollywood Live. If you want to find out anything about our terrific guests today, our sponsors, even me or my daughter, just go to realhollywoodlive.com. And it's my pleasure to say that's a wrap.
Perfect. Thank you.
Real Hollywood Live with Ben and Reba.